This is Kevin from Kevin's Micro Fleet. Today I've got a Micro Galaxy Squadron review. We're going to be taking a look at the Series 9 Scout Class. We're going to take a look at the figures, at the vehicles, at the packaging. We'll do some measurements. We'll do a comparison. Let's go ahead and dive into the review. Here is our Series 9 Scout Class PDQ. And this looks the exact same as Series 8 and Series 7, which is a little bit disappointing because it's got this generic blue graphic on it, and all of the individual cases all look the exact same. If you're looking at the PDQ, you can identify whether or not this is going to be Series 9 or Series 8 by the common vehicles here that are shown down on the bottom. But the disadvantage of this is sometimes when you're in stores, as new series come out, the people that are stocking the shelves don't realize it. So some people may end up taking these Series 9 boxes out and then putting Series 8 boxes or Series 7 boxes in here accidentally. So you do have to check this if you find one of these in the stores, and check to see that it does say Series 9 there on all of the individual cases. I did get one of these cases and got home, and there were 3 Series 8 boxes in here that I didn't see that were towards the back. You just have to be careful of that. Again, I wish they would do something to just change the color of it, or do something to identify that the individual package itself is slightly different when you're going from one series to the next. Now on this PDQ, you can see here we have our 4 common vehicles. So you've got Luan and his speeder, Kanan and his speeder, Scout Trooper and the AVA speeder, and then you've got your probe droid. As we turn this thing to the side, nothing but just blue graphics on there, Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron on the back, and then Micro Galaxy Squadron on there. The underside of the box has nothing on it. This is really just used as a display case, and then all of the individual boxes are inside of it. One of the things that they did over the years is they have changed this to where this piece here is actually attached, and it does fold down like this, so that way when the stock people take this thing out of the package, they don't just rip the top off, which is what happened on some of the previous versions of this. Taking a look at the actual individual package here, so you can see on here it's got Series 9 there, Micro Galaxy Squadron mystery vehicle. It includes 1 vehicle, 1 figure, and then also may include a flight stand. Here's just a little graphic there on the side. On the back of the box here, this is just your production date and code for the actual item. There's no way to identify what the actual item is inside the box by using any of the codes here on the back. So don't worry about that. Then you have your UPC there if you wanted to have that. On the bottom of the box, it has a picture of the actual figure as well as the size of the vehicle that would be inside. We turn this thing to the side, and now we get a chance to see the 6 different figures that come in Series 9. So we'll talk through each one of these, but you have your 4 common vehicles, then you have your 1 chase and your 1 rare vehicle. So we're going to start with our common vehicles, and we're going to begin with Luan. This is maybe one of my least favorite figures that I've seen in a while that Jazzwares has done, for 2 main reasons. One is it really doesn't look like him at all, other than the fact that his coat somewhat appears like the one that he wears in the show. The other problem here is actually his coat itself. So the problem with his coat is that in order to be able to have him ride on the speeder bike, you obviously have to have his legs split so that he can fit on there. And so when they cut the coat there in the back and they just have it molded to the side of his legs, it just really doesn't look that great. And then again, the likeness is just not really there for me either. Now, he does have on the back here, the sculpt there of his coat looks okay. I would say generally looks like what he wears in the show. And then the speeder bike does look something like what they actually do drive in the show as well. With the speeder, there is, you can see a lot of this material that's in there next to those bars should be negative space. Obviously, you can't do that on a vehicle of this size because it's just so small the thing would fall apart, and it wouldn't really hold its form very well. So they still did a reasonable job with being able to get that together. Now this is on a flight stand here where you can have it on this peg, and then you can also put it on this one here to zoom it around if you wanted to. Now I do want to compare this to Cassian Andor's. And so we can see the difference here in the actual speeder bikes. So definitely a difference in the color. You can see the yellow in Luthen's is much more vibrant than the one in Andor's. You can also see the seat color is slightly different, where it's brown on Andor's and more of a red on Luthen. But that is your Luthen figure compared to Cassian, so you can see that there is a difference in the speeder bike. It's not the exact same. Next, we have Kanan and his speeder. The figure actually looks really good. Very, very similar to the version that we got with the Ghost, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. And the speeder bike is actually the same mold that we have from Series 1. So it's been a long time since we've seen this speeder reused, but very cool to be able to have the color on there, as well as some of the detailing there that's on the side of the bike. They've done such a good job here at Jazzwares with getting the details and the really small details in some of these figures on their helmets, and then as well as on the actual speeders themselves. So here we've got your Ghost version of Kanan on the left, and then you have your Scout class version there on the right. And so you can see, again, the sculpt is the exact same, no difference there. There is a slight difference, very slight difference, in the color there of his jacket, as well as his pauldron there on his shoulder. So, I mean, it looks a little more brown on the version that came with the Ghost than the actual one that is now in this set. And then on the camera, it does look much more green. His shirt looks more green on the right version versus the one that comes with the Ghost. So that is quite a bit different than the two, and it looks more apparent actually on the camera than it does in person with it there. And then you can see it even more on the back. It does look much more different. Now, if we're looking at the speeder bikes, I do want to show the difference between Series 1. So here's what our Series 1 looked like. So just kind of a gray one that has a little bit of yellow on it versus all of that detailing that we're getting here on this second version here that comes in Series 9. Now we're going to look at our Scout class trooper and the AVA speeder. And this is a really cool looking vehicle. I'm not sure where this actually comes from, what source material, but I do really like the contrast there of the white and the black on this relative to some of the other versions of the AVA speeder, which we got, and I'll show here in just a minute. Now our Scout Trooper is the same Scout Trooper as we've had with all of the waves. There's no difference there with him. All of the paint detailing and everything on him is the same. But you can see here on the bike, it does have some of that silver accents on there, which looks really cool. It's got the gray on there. Again, just looks really, really nice. If we look at this first, we just see the Scout Trooper compared to another version. So this is our Series 1 Scout Trooper. Again, no difference there between the sculpt or the paint application on him. And then if we look at the couple different versions of the AVA speeder we got, so we have one version here that actually came with our Imperial pilot, or Imperial gunner, or whatever they want to call him. And then we have our Sabine version as well. We actually have the final version, which we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. We've got our Chase version, which is the hologram version. Now we'll look at my favorite figure here in this specific series, the probe droid, and then his capsule that he flies in. This thing is really cool. We actually, in an interview, had an opportunity to be able to hear from the designer of this and talked about some of the different source material that was used to be able to design this actual pod that it comes in, as well as some of the detailing that's on the interior. And if we look at this thing first, the one thing that is a huge disadvantage, it's such an eyesore for this, is the black markings that are on here. I wish they had done that in some other type of color, so it blended in just a little bit better and didn't stand out so much. But even still, let's open this thing up. We get a chance to see, look at all the detailing there on the interior. And a lot of this detailing on the interior was creative license by the designers of this actual pod to be able to come up with what they would imagine the interior of this thing looking like. and it looks really, really cool. It does have that little peg in there to be able to put the probe droid in there. Now, here is your actual probe, and the droid doesn't have any functionality, even though it looks like it might. So it does have this soft plastic piece in here. I've got a couple of these, and some of them are bent. If you wanted to try to fix them, you could just heat them up very lightly, and then you can kind of hold them in the position that you want them to be in as it cools. But there's no functionality here with any of the arms or with the head moving. But it is such a cool looking, I guess you'd call this a vehicle or droid or whatever you want to call it. It just looks really, really awesome. And in order to be able to put him in here, you actually, on the bottom of that, there is a little hole. So you're able to slide that on there and close it up. Now I want to look at this guy compared to one other version of a probe droid that we have, which is actually the Action Fleet version. So in the transforming playset for the Death Star, there is actually this clear piece that actually gets ejected out. So there's a little button on there and it fires out of the front of the Death Star. But it does open on a little hinge there at the bottom. And here is what your probe droid looks like. So this thing is really cool. It actually does have some functionality here in the actual arms here. They can move around just a little bit. And then if you're looking at them compared to one another, you can see it's just a little bit bigger than the version that we have obviously here in Micro Galaxy Squadron. And the difference in the pod obviously is way different, as you can see that here. But very cool to be able to have this. This was not something that I would have ever imagined that we got in this series or in this line at all. So the fact that we got a probe droid, and not only that, but that it's a common vehicle is really, really cool. So everybody's going to be able to get as many of these as they want to outfit their Imperial troops. Now we have our rare, our 1 of 10,000, which is Anakin on the Bark Speeder with the Rancor face on it. The one interesting thing about this figure is that this figure mainly differs in the glove color. So you can actually see his glove color is black on this figure. And if we compare this to one of the other versions, which is actually your Series 2 Scout Class Rare, he has the brown gloves on. This Series 2 version is the only version that I've got that he actually has the brown gloves. On all of the other versions of this figure, he does have the black gloves on. Now, with the actual speeder itself, it's a very cool speeder. It actually does have 2 different pieces to it. So if we actually take this guy off of here, you can remove the sidecar. And so there is a little peg there that sits on, just like that. And that's such a cool feature because you could just have this thing floating on its own. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for it to do that, but you could potentially do it that way. And I don't think the bottom comes off of that. It doesn't. So, but either way, if you wanted to remove the speeder, you certainly could do that. And then it could just fly out there on its own. But there it is on there. Now, if we're looking at this guy compared to the other version of this that we have, which is our Ahsoka version of the Rare, which was from the last series, there is just a tiny difference there in the color of that one side panel that you can see right underneath that white dot. And that is pretty much it. Beyond that, it is the same exact vehicle. Same Rancor face there on it, same colors, same pattern, no other difference to it. Oh, well, maybe just a tiny bit there on the seat color. So if you have the Anakin figure and you have the Rancor speeder from the previous series, you really could kind of make this up. You don't necessarily have to have this, although for myself being a completist, I definitely want to have it. There's a slight difference there in the tone of the face with that Anakin figure as well as the other versions of it, but again, not really enough that I would say is intentional. It may just be a difference in the paint color of that specific batch of paint. Finally, we have our Chase, our 1 of 5,000 our Scout Trooper with the AVA speeder. This is really cool that they're continuing this hologram subline because it's a perfect type of item to have as a 1 in 5,000 chase. Now, these are very difficult to find if you're looking for them in that Scout class package. The one way that most of us have got all of the rares and chases over the previous couple series is actually with the Amazon bundles. So you'll see the light armor class bundles in the description below. And if you pick those up, you have a very high chance of being able to land some of the chases and rares out of that. Now, if you get one of them, obviously your chances are not going to be as high as if you get multiple. So either way, that would be the way to pick this up. And it does look really, really cool. So it's obviously transparent. You can see right through that guy. And it's really fun to be able to have this subline of these vehicles that, that again, are just very unique. I mean, you just won't see this anywhere else. Now, you can obviously see this is a very soft material. You can see how easy that is to bend. If you wanted to get this thing to be straighter, you certainly could heat it up a little bit and then just try and hold it in place in order for it to stick, but I'm not that concerned about it. Now, I do want to show this compared to the San Diego Comic-Con Scout Trooper that was an exclusive. This was a 1 in 500, I think, or 1 in 1,000 piece. And the Scout Troopers are the exact same. There's no difference in the Scout Troopers. Obviously, it's hologram, so there's not going to be any difference in any paint application or the mold. So if you missed out on that, this is the way to get your hologram Scout Trooper. You obviously just won't have the bike. And then I also wanted to show this compared to our hologram Maul, which we got here in the previous series. Very cool, again, to do this hologram subline as a great way to do the 1 in 5,000 because it's not something that everybody needs to have. It is just a very unique vehicle that, you know, some of the hardcore collectors will want to try to find. So that rounds out our Series 9 Scout class. If you like this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Feel free to check out all the links that I have in the description below. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I look forward to catching everybody on the next review.